Yes, sir.
Okay, so let us consider the flow about a particle which is moving with a velocity capital U. Okay, I mean, this is a very prototypical problem, and there are many ways of doing this problem. Some of the techniques have been discussed by Professor Suman Chakraborty in his set of lectures. I think in the videos that he had sent. But we'll try to make use of our E2 operator and see whether that simplifies life by some factor or not. So, if this is moving in this direction, it is most useful to us to consider this as ER and this as theta. Okay, so that the flow becomes symmetric about the streaming axis. So U is also the streaming axis. So what is the velocity of the particle in the ER direction? It will be equal to U cos theta, right? So U at the particle is U cos theta ER, and this direction is E theta direction. So what is the E theta component? It will be equal to minus U sin theta E theta at A. These are the, so A is like the radius of the particle. Let us quickly recollect what the expressions for the velocities are. So the velocities are UR is equal to 1 upon R square sin theta del psi del theta, and U theta is equal to minus 1 upon R sin theta del psi del R. So UR, so if we had solved for the stream function, the UR component would have been 1 upon R square sin theta del psi del theta, and the U theta component would have been minus 1 upon R sin theta del psi by del R. So these are the two velocity components, and the whole problem is to find out what psi is. So the Gurney equation is E2 of psi equals 0. So what is, let us first write down what E2 of psi is. So let us again recall what the E2 operator is. E2 is del 2 by del R2 plus sin theta by R square del theta of 1 upon sin theta del theta. Okay. And essentially the whole task is to write down an appropriate form that will satisfy our Gurney equation. So del 2 by del R2 plus sin theta upon R square del theta of 1 upon sin theta del theta. This operator acting on psi equals 0. Not equals 0, this is just that operator. But what should be the form of psi? So because the domain is infinite, we can sort of imagine that the solution for psi can be of an eigenfunction expansion form. But it can also be a separable variable form, which can eventually give an eigenvalue problem. But so psi can be written as f of r times g of theta. But from the boundary conditions, we can sort of estimate what the form of g of theta will be. And this is usually how you sort of get an idea of what g of theta will be for simple problems. For very complicated problems, you have to actually solve for g also. In this particular problem, we will be able to estimate the form of g theta. So let us see, u at a is equal to u cos theta. So u cos theta is 1 upon a square sin theta del psi del theta, right? Because ur is equal to 1 upon r square sin theta del psi del theta. So I have substituted r equal to a in this expression. So if this is to be true at the surface for all theta, then psi has to be of the form ua square integral of sin theta cos theta, right? So ua square by 2 sin square theta, something like this. Similarly, from this equation also, let us see what we can estimate. From this equation, minus u sin theta is equal to minus 1 upon a sin theta del psi by del r at a. So del psi by del r at a is equal to, so this minus sign cancels out, ua sin square theta. So essentially it is some function of r, if you may, times sin square theta. From both the boundary conditions we do see there is a common tie which is sin square theta. So let us assume that the form of psi is capital F of r times sin square theta. So if we substitute this, what is the Gurney equation? So d2f dr2 times sin square theta plus sin theta upon r square del theta of 1 upon sin theta del theta of capital F times sin square theta, and this becomes sin square theta times d2f dr2 plus, so what will be this term? So 2 sin theta cos theta, f goes outside first of all, so this becomes 2 sin theta cos theta, sin theta cancels with this, so del theta of cos theta, so that becomes minus sin theta, so minus sin square theta by r square, and we forgot a 2 over here. So if you just do the math, f goes outside, take a derivative, sin theta cancels out, take a derivative of the cosine term, you get this. So essentially what we have is the E2 operator acting on Fr times sin square theta is sin square theta multiplied by d2f dr2 minus 2f by r square. So similarly, E2 operator acting on E2 of Fr sin square theta is the same as writing E2 acting on d2f dr2 minus 2f by r square times sin square theta, and by the same sort of mathematical injection logic, this will be equal to d2 by dr2 of, okay, before doing that let me say that this thing is small f, let me say that this thing is small f of r. So then this essentially becomes E2 acting on small f of r times sin square theta, and this is nothing but sin square theta d2 small f dr2 minus twice small f by r square, and E2 acting on E2 on this has to be equal to 0, hence this whole expression is 0 for all values of sin theta, rather for all values of theta. So essentially in the end we have d2f dr2 minus 2f by r square equals 0, and f equals d2 capital F dr2 minus 2 capital F by r square. So these are the Gurney equations. So let us multiply by r square. So r square d2f dr2 minus 2f equals 0. Let's say that the solution exists and is of the form r to the power s. So we have r square times s minus 1 times r raised to s minus 2 minus twice r to the power s equals 0. If you substitute this in this equation, we obtain this. And so it becomes s times s minus 1 minus 2 times r to the power s equals 0, which implies s square minus s minus 2 equals 0, which implies s minus 2 times s plus 1 equals 0, which implies that s equal to 2 and s equals minus 1. Corresponding to this, so we can write down the solution. So if s is equal to 2 and minus 1, so small f is equal to a r square plus b upon r. Now this expression we substitute in this particular equation to find out eventually the solution for capital F. So d2 capital F dr2 minus twice f by r square is equal to ar square plus b by r. So the homogeneous solution for f is again cr square plus d by r, because it has exactly the same structure as small f. Okay, there is nothing fancy about this. What about the inhomogeneous part? So we can do it one by one for this and this, because the equation is linear. So for ar square, let us consider the inhomogeneous for ar square. So if we have to match the solution for ar square, the solution for f inhomogeneous first term has to be of the form r to the power c r to the power, not c, but let's call it e r to the power 4. So if you substitute e r to the power 4 in the left hand side, we have e times 4 times 3 times r square minus twice r square times e. So this is equal to 12 minus 2, 10 e r square. And on the right hand side, we are trying to match it with a r square. So this should be equal to a r square. Thus, e has to be equal to a upon 10. So the first inhomogeneous term becomes a upon 10 r to the power 4. What about the second inhomogeneous term? F inhomogeneous 2. So if we have to match the solution with b upon r, then f has to be necessarily of the form 1 upon r. Okay, so it has to be of the form 1 upon, no, not 1 upon r, it has to be of the form r. So let us call it as f times r. Okay, so f is being repeated, so let's say call it g times r. So if we have g times r only, then we can have a 1 by r appearing over here. So for the second inhomogeneous term, if we substitute g times r in the left hand side, the second derivative is 0 for this, because it becomes constant upon first derivative and then 0. So the second term is minus twice gr upon r square, and it becomes minus 2g upon r. And on the right hand side, we have the second inhomogeneous term, which is equal to b upon r. Thus g has to be equal to minus b upon 2. So the second inhomogeneous solution is minus br by 2. Thus the solution for capital F is cr square plus d by r plus a times, not a times r square, a upon 10 times r to the power 4 minus b r upon 2. So if we can just a upon 10 r to the power 4 minus b r by 2 plus c r square plus d upon r. So this is capital F. Solution for psi is thus a upon 10 r to the power 4 minus b r by 2 plus c r square plus d upon r times sine square theta. So this is the final expression for the general solution of psi for the case of a particle moving with a uniform velocity. Now the only task remains is to find out the values of A, B, C, D with the appropriate boundary conditions. Let us see how we can evaluate those. So the physical problem is there is a particle moving in an unbounded fluid with a uniform velocity capital U. So far from the particle, the velocity has to decay to 0. The velocity has to decay all the way to 0. And let us look at the expression for the velocities again. The expression of velocities are 1 upon r square times psi, something which is of the order of 1 upon r square psi. So essentially psi by r del r, so r psi by r square, psi by r square. So the point is, as r tends to infinity, the behavior of psi by r square has to be bounded. Psi by r square must be bounded, must go to 0 as r tends to infinity. Any other term, if we have in psi upon r square which is proportional to r, for example, or some constant, that particular term has to become 0. Otherwise, that particular term will not decay. Okay. So essentially what you can do is very simple. Just take this expression for psi, put it in the expression for ur and u theta in the expressions above, and you will see that these this particular term and this particular term, they will be going as 1 upon r raised to something, but this particular term and this particular term, in this particular term this will grow as r square and this particular term will become constant. So a and c must go to 0 in order to satisfy that the velocity field decays to 0 at infinity. The logic is very clear that for large values of r, we must have a solution which decays and not grow or becomes constant. It has to necessarily decay. So if a and c are equal to 0, it helps us in simplifying the expression as minus br upon 2 plus d upon r sine square theta. And now the only task remains is to use the boundary conditions at the surface to evaluate b and d. So we've already written those over here. So u cos theta is this, was one of the conditions, and del psi by del r at a is equal to this was the other boundary condition. So let us write those. U cos theta equals, okay, let me go here. So u cos theta is equal to 1 upon r square sine theta del psi by del theta at r equal to a. So essentially it becomes 1 upon a square sine theta, and psi is equal to capital F times del sine square theta. So this becomes capital F of r times del theta of sine square theta. So sine square theta is twice sine theta cos theta. So sine theta cancels. So 2 by a square cos theta f at a, because r is equal to a, and this is equal to u cos theta. So cos theta cancels out, and essentially f at a becomes equal to u a square upon 2. So this is one of the conditions on f, while the other condition is u, so minus u sine theta. So this is the er velocity condition at the surface of the particle. And this is going to be the e theta velocity at surface of particle. This was equal to minus 1 upon r sine theta del psi by del r at r equal to a. So minus 1 upon a sine theta. So psi is capital F times sine square theta. So sine square theta goes out. Sine square theta df by dr at r equal to a. So this is minus u sine theta. So sine theta, sine square theta, sine theta gets cancelled. The sine gets cancelled. So df by dr at r equals a is equal to u times a. So expression for f is merely this. So minus, just let us write it down over here, minus br by 2 plus d by r. This is the expression for capital F. So f at a is us square by 2. So us square by 2 is equal to d by a minus ba by 2. And similarly df dr at r equals a is equal to ua. So ua is equal to, what is df dr going to be? Minus d by r square. So minus d by a square minus b by 2. So these are the expressions. So it's a very easy task to find out what b and d will be. So let's multiply. We can divide this by a. So ua by 2 is equal to d by a square minus b by 2, and ua is equal to minus d by a square minus b by 2. So if we add these expressions, so 3 by 2 ua is equal to minus b. So b is minus 3 by 2 ua. So if this is b, so d by a is equal to us square by 2 plus ba by 2. So minus 3 upon 4 ua square, right? So what is this? Minus 1 upon 4 ua square, right? So d upon a is this. So this implies that d is minus ua cube by 4. So I'm hoping if you catch any algebraic mistake, you will let me know. So the final expression for psi is so minus br by 2. So 3 by 2 u a r by 2 plus d upon r. So minus ua cube by 4 times r times sine square theta. So u outside, let us take 4 outside, u by 4 sine square theta three ar minus a cube by r. So let's take a square outside as well. So u a square sine square theta upon 4 3 r upon a minus a cube by r cube. Oh, sorry, a upon r. Okay, so psi is equal to u a square sine square theta upon 4 times 3 r by a minus a by r. So with the help of this psi, I mean, right away you should go, not right away, but eventually you should go to MATLAB and try to plot how iso-psi lines look like. So go to MATLAB or any Octave or whatever you like, and try to plot this. Try to see how the structure of psi looks like. So let us write down the components of velocity. So ur is 1 upon r square sine theta del psi del theta. So 1 upon r square. So del psi del theta will simply be equal to f times 2 sine theta cos theta divided by sine theta. So this 2 sine theta cos theta is essentially from del theta of sine square theta, and this sine theta appears over here. Sine theta cancels, so 2 by r square times f, and f in this case is us square by 4 times 3r by a minus a by r. So u times cos theta also. Cos theta upon 2, right? A square by r square 3r by a minus a by r. So this is going to be ur, and what is u theta going to be? U theta is equal to minus 1 upon r sine theta del psi by del r. So minus 1 upon r sine theta times sine square theta times u a square by 4 times derivative of this with respect to r. So this becomes 3 upon a minus, so plus a by r square. So this becomes minus u a square sine theta upon 4 by r. So let us take one of these a inside. So we can take one of these a's inside and have 3 plus a square by r square. So this is the expression for u theta. So good, we have derived the expressions for the velocities, the stream functions. So how do you find the expression for the pressure? How do you find the expression for the pressure? Okay, so let us just recall. I mean, you know how to do this already by now. So the pressure was equal to minus mu nabla cross the vorticity, and that's it. You have the velocity components ur and u theta, and with the help of these you should be in a very comfortable position to evaluate what the expression for omega should be. And if you recall, omega was e square of psi in the e phi direction. So just substitute this over here and find out the del p del r component and del p del theta component. Recall that gradient of p in the spherical coordinate system will be del p del r er plus 1 upon r del p del theta e theta. Once you have the expressions for er and e theta of the right hand side, you can equate them with this to find out the expressions for del p del r and del p del theta. Once you have these expressions, you can write dp is equal to del p del r dr plus del p del theta d theta, and then you can integrate it to find an expression for p. I leave this as a homework to you. Okay, once you have the pressure, you can plot the isobars for the flow and try to get an understanding of how the pressure also varies. Okay, because you have the velocity components and pressure, you can find out the actual stress tensor components also. Okay, once you have the stress tensor components, you can find out the force acting on the object as integral of tau dot er dA. And all these, I leave this as an exercise because you already know the solution. It will be 6 pi eta ru or 6 pi mu ru, a very well-known Stokes drag, and you should be able to find this out. So this force vector has to be then dotted with Ez, but force vector you're going to obtain in terms of er e theta. So when you take a dot product with Ez, just try to figure out what the angles will be. It's a very simple operation. We have already done this kind of splitting to split the capital U velocity in the er and e theta components, and you should be in a very comfortable position to evaluate all these things out. Take your time, don't be rushed, Try to do it at your own pace. With this, we end this lecture in which we have made use of the E operators and found out the solution for the flow past, not the flow past a sphere, but the flow around a sphere which moves with a uniform velocity. In the next lecture, should time permit, we'll try to find out the general solution of the E2, rather the E4 Psi equation in terms of Gegenbaur polynomials. I'll see you next time. Bye.